So can I proceed with my presentation?
Yes, yes, of course.
All right. So is the PPT. Can you see the PPT?
No, sure.
A minute.
Hello, sir. Your voice is no. You don't have. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, already. Thank you. And please turn on your camera also.
Good morning once again.
Yes, sir.
We are okay. We can start. So sorry for the inconvenience.
Yes, Justin, please go ahead making a presentation. Please go ahead, Justin.
All right. All right. Thank you. Okay, so we are looking at understanding or conceptualizing the digital divide, which is a disadvantage to community development. Conceptualizing digital divide, which is a disadvantage to community development. So let's look at the definition. So in the first place, the digital divide is the unequal access to digital technology. It's the unequal access to digital technology, which basically includes the smartphones. You talk of the laptops and the access to internet. So basically, it's the unequal distribution or the unequal access to these technologies. That's what defines digital divide. So digital divide versus inequality around access to information and resources. So the end result of the unequal distribution or the unequal access to digital technology results into the inequality around access to information and resources. People are unable to be informed in good time. In fact, with also the right information and also the resources. So the digital divide, once again, would say, or in other ways, would say is a gap that exists between people who have access to digital technology and those that do not have, or those who do not have the access to technology. So we understand also that we have different factors that can contribute to this unequal access to technology. But before we go to such a topic, let's look at the levels of digital divide. The levels of digital divide. I have divided them into three. I know maybe some would have more than three. And the first one is the access. The first level is the access. So this level of the digital divide is the physical access to technology. This is the physical access to technology and the internet. And we can mention that these are influenced by the geographical location. So as I mentioned, I recently mentioned of the factors that contribute to this unequal access to technology. One of them is geographical location. We also have economic status and the available infrastructure and the available infrastructure. So someone cannot have access to technology or cannot have access to internet or smartphones just by the very fact of the location. Some locations do not have the capacity to accommodate, for example, internet or accommodate any kind of network. At the same time, somebody cannot have access to technology just because of the economic status. So we're different in economic status. You know, some can afford to buy the gadgets. Some can afford to have access to internet because they have the capacity or the economic capacity to acquire them. The second level of digital divide is digital skills. Digital skills. So the digital divide is the skills and knowledge needed to use technology. It is the skills and knowledge needed to use the technology. So not just using, but effectively. So we have different examples of people who have the access to internet, they have access to technology, but they don't have skills of using such kind of technology. So one of the factors that contribute to this are the educational level. Educational level, we have age as well, and experience with technology. So educational level, age, and experience with the technology. So those who have gone to school, no, we would say they've learned something regarding technology. So maybe in the first class, they've had maybe computer related modules. So they will have a particular knowledge on how best they can use the technology or the little technology that they have. And some do not have access to this kind of education. Then we also have the issue of age. Right now, somebody who is 18 and somebody who is 52 cannot have the same skills. They cannot have the same skills. One, because of the differences in time and so forth, and also maybe the mental capacity. So young ones are very sharp in learning, are very sharp in thinking compared to the older ones. And also the experience. Some have had these gadgets now and then and so forth, so they know where to press and they know how best they can use the internet, the gadgets, the network effectively. So as I've mentioned, younger people and those with the high education levels generally have better digital skills, while older adults and people with limited education opportunities may lack these skills. So the digital skills will basically have an impact on how best we use technology. So we can have the access, but we don't have the skills to best use the technology. The last one is the outcome or outcomes. So you have the access to the technology, then you also have the digital skills, but you have issues sometimes with the outcomes. So on this third level of the digital divide is the ability to use technology to improve one's life. Is the ability to use technology to improve one's life. What's the outcome? Basically, we're answering the question, what is the outcome of having access to technology, having skills to technology, and the, or to say effective use or effective skills to technology. So the outcome of that is what brings us to the third level. And this level focuses on how people use technology and the extent to which they benefit from it. So we have individuals who have the capacity to have gadgets, or they also have the necessary skills. But now, how best are they using these skills, or how best are they using their capacity to have these technologies in their lives? So we also have other examples where people use technology to make money. They use technology to make business. They use technology to design, right? But anyway, by the end of the day, we'll still end at having money. So it's the difference that exists between individuals on how technology benefits them, how technology improves their lives. So some might use it for social media, just for social media. They just get excited being on different platforms, and maybe on mental health, that means they get helped. Some just for entertainment, some creating content for the sake of business, as I've mentioned. Some use it for educational purposes, as we are doing. So we have the access, probably we have also the skills, and now this is benefiting us. We're able to share knowledge, intellectual knowledge. We're able to share different skills using this platform. So all that shows the outcome of having the access and also the skills to technology. The types. So we can quickly go through the types of technological divide. Number one, we have the gender divide. Gender divide. So women often lag behind men in access to internet, and mainly this happens in developing countries. So in low-income countries, men are 90% likely to own a mobile phone than women. 90% of men are likely to own a mobile phone than women. So this is the reality of life if it comes to different countries. So it will be also influenced by maybe cultural values. You know, a woman cannot have a phone before me as a man. So as a man, I should have a phone first and then the woman. And in other cases, a woman cannot have a phone because she's a woman. So these are just scenarios in different areas that describe the gender divide. Number two, universal access to divine. In other areas or most areas where technology is a little bit less, we are going to have difficulties or yes, like physical people, less we are less able might have difficulties in accessing internet, even if they have the necessary skills. So they have some difficulties in accessing the internet, even if they have skills. So basically, we're looking at the type of technology that is special for them. So you find that if it's the computers, I would say simply gadgets, you find only gadgets that are conducive to people who are fully able. So that will give a certain gap to, a certain gap in accessing technology, just because we do not have a special technology that can be conducive to this group of people. Then the last one is economic divide. So this is when people can't afford to buy a computer or any kind of gadget, in other terms. This is when people can't afford to buy any kind of gadget. We also have the other one is the social-cultural divide, where content and services might not be readily available in local languages. So, for example, I have the capacity to have a gadget. I also have skills, but the challenge will come in when now the particular gadget, a particular gadget is not in my local language. So I don't know how to speak English, and the gadget is in English. I don't know, for example, I don't know Chinese, but the gadget is in Chinese. So that also gives us a particular gap if it comes to technology. And some of the factors that contribute to digital divide is the cost. One is the cost of devices and internet services. So these can actually limit access for low income earners. You might have the will to have a gadget, but now, or a device, but now you are unable, you cannot afford to have a particular gadget. Number two, education. So people with a college degree are more likely to use the internet than those without a high school degree. So basically, we're talking about the knowledge of education, as I mentioned previously. People who have gone to school, have an upper hand to have knowledge of technology. Age as well, as we mentioned as well, that older people are less likely to use the internet than younger people, because younger people are sharp enough to learn things as fast as possible, and yes, and the like. Location as well. So people who live in rural areas are less likely to use the internet than those in the urban areas. That's the issue of geography. So some areas might not have access to the internet. They might not also have access to the availability of gadgets and the waste enough internet. So internet sometimes is usually meant to be maybe in town and, or say, urban areas compared to rural communities. Another factor is disability. So people with less disabilities are less likely to use internet. As I've mentioned, that they might not have the special gadgets that might be used by them. Socioeconomic status tells us that people with more money have more access to technology than than those that have less money. So let's embark on the impact of digital divide on community development. How does the digital divide or the unequal access to internet or technology affect community development? It is a fact that lack of or the incapacity to have access to these gadgets has an effect on development of the community. Especially we're looking at rural communities, especially on rural communities. In urban areas, we do not have too much issues. We develop every day and almost every hour. But in the communities, rural communities, we have too much issues. So limited access to information and resources, that is one of the effects and in fact negative effects of digital divide. Communities in the first place without adequate access to digital technologies are often cut off from important information. So these people from the rural areas are usually cut off from very important information. Not just information, education resources as well, government services, healthcare resources that are increasingly provided online. So these days, you will find that people are not usually clinging to the radios. They would want, or we share our information usually, including the government. So the government is going to have, or usually it has websites, or say different pages that they share their information, assuming that everybody has a gadget and everybody is well vested with technology, but that's not the case. Number two, educational disadvantages. Typical communities or rural communities, students are marginalized if it comes to technology. So students in digitally marginalized communities may not have access to online learning tools. So right now, what we're doing is using this platform, which is all about technology. When the digital world, I'm here, the other audience is somewhere very far from me, but we're able to interact. But in rural areas, this cannot happen. That means physically they have to go to school, physically they have to write, physically they have to do A, B, C, D, and so forth. So everything is almost manual. So the online learning tools for them is not their dictionary. At the same time, we have also other resources that are found on internet. That means they're cut off. And in fact, internet itself is not one of the things in their dictionary. And this, by the end of the day, creates a gap in education achievement. This creates a gap in educational achievement. They cannot achieve the educational goals in exact way, the way we can achieve. So if you compare your audience, for example, and the audience in the communities, that means you already have a gap. They cannot perform the way you can perform. Number three, we also have the economic inequality. Economic inequality. So the digital divide can deepen the economic disparities or the economic differences. That means Rural communities cannot have businesses online. They might miss out on job opportunities, as well as even online work. And maybe to add on that one, access to e-commerce platforms. They might have business ideas and so, but they cannot sell online. Some of us use WhatsApp, some use TikTok, and maybe Facebook and other platforms as well to sell their products, to sell their services, and any other idea that might need a bigger audience at a shorter period of time. But worse enough, you'll find that people do not have opportunities, job opportunities, and online work. So as a community, you cannot develop if you don't have access to this kind of opportunities. Even if as a community you farm, but now by the end of the day, you remain what you were. You cannot learn something new. Right. Number 4, probably, hindered civic engagement. Hindered civic engagement. So access to technology is crucial for participating in modern civic activities, such as voting, engaging with local government initiatives, and contributing to public discourse. So we as a local community or a real community will be unable to participate in different civic activities. We have tough areas where maybe ballot boxes or civic education cannot work or cannot reach. So they will be cut off from the other world because they're maybe totally into rural areas where we have poor road network and so forth. So obviously these people will not participate in such kind of activities. While with the technology, people can decide to choose a leader by voting. You can vote online. We have different initiatives. We have to participate. So communities without digital access may be underrepresented in important decision-making processes. The left aside, they cannot necessarily participate if they cannot vote, if they cannot engage with the public service or public services, or in a short, say, less civic engagement. That means they are already underrepresented. So it's a minority that is not represented anywhere. By the end of the day, that means their needs and concerns are always unaddressed. Then they cannot go further. They cannot develop if their issues are not put forward. They cannot go forward if their issues, their needs, their concerns are not addressed. But with the availability of technology, it's very easy. You write an email, you go on the Facebook page, you go on maybe the website. You can put your concerns as a member of a state, as a member of a state. Then lastly, we have reduced innovation and creativity. Reduced innovation and creativity. We understand that technology fosters innovation and creativity. But communities without digital access may miss out on technological advancements, that could drive social progress and problem solving. So basically, we remain what we were. Okay. So we remain tradition. We remain what we are. We cannot think outside the box. That's why I gave an example of agriculture. So we have been doing agriculture for so long. We have been doing agriculture for so long, different types of crops and so forth, rearing animals and the like. But because we don't have access to the other world through technology, we cannot learn maybe other methods of farming. If it's maize and tobacco, for example, in Malawi, maize, tobacco, cotton, tea, that means we can only focus on that one. So a particular community will only focus on tobacco because that's what they've been doing. And the way of farming is the same. But with the technology, no, you have creativity, you bring innovation. So, the difference or the gap that exists in access to technology will have these factors or will have these negative impacts on particular communities. So we have limited access to information and resources, also educational disadvantages, economic inequality, hindered civic engagement, and lastly, reduced innovation and creativity. So I know by the end of the day, we have to have the solution to the digital divide. How do we bridge the digital divide? How do we help these local communities or rural communities to have access to technology? So this one, I'll leave for everyone to find solutions to the digital divide. It's an assignment for everyone. So those are the issues. We have understood what is digital divide, the types and so forth, and also the impact of digital divide, especially on local communities or rural communities. All right, so thank you very much. This was my presentation. We already started late, and maybe that's why I've done it very fast to make sure that we don't extend maybe to different hours where you have something else to do. But thank you very much. This is my presentation. Over to you. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation and for our participant. If you have any questions for the speaker, please add them to the chat or you can raise your hand. We will wait until 3 minutes again, just a moment here. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, we have some questions here already right in the Zoom chat. Indonesia, the question visible from your side or no? Hello?
All right, so I was checking the questions. The first one says the first one says the digital divide is often framed as technological issue. Yes, but isn't it more of a social and economic problem? And how should we prioritize solutions? So in the first place, the digital divide, as you have mentioned, is a technological issue. We're looking at technology. And if the question comes in, but isn't it more of a social and economic problem? Of course, it's one of the factors that bring about the digital divide. As I've mentioned, that one of the factors is that one, where people have less capacity economically. So people are failing to afford to buy or to have access to internet and even the gadgets. So basically, it's true to say it's more of social and economic problem. So in the first place, that means we have to make sure that people have the capacity to have, or we could say they have the economic muscle to have access to internet and even the gadgets. So if you ask me in that way, I would agree with you, because this problem comes in because of the existence of economic challenges. So Abdul, that's very true, and the solution is to manage the economy even in rural areas. People should have, the capacity, the economic muscle to have access to these gadgets or these services. And there's another one saying, some argue that the private sector, not the government, should take the lead in closing the digital divide. Is this a sustainable approach, or does it risk further marginalizing disadvantaged communities? So this is not necessarily the work of only the private sector. We understand the duty as a state is the government, which is supposed to make sure that we have the resources available and so forth. The private sector comes in to beef up the effort that the government is putting in place. So the government plays its part, and also the private sector has to play its part. So it's not a one-way thing to say it's only the government, or I mean, sorry, it's not only the, I mean, it's supposed to be the private sector that is to take up this initiative. So it's the both of the sectors that are required to work together to make sure that we have or we have less gap in accessing to these technologies. What role does language play in the digital divide? Even with internet access to language barrier prevents some communities from fully engaging in the digital world. Yes, it's very true. As for Malawi, we usually import, right? We usually import. The gadgets that we use are not necessarily manufactured in Malawi, somewhere else. And I gave an example of China. We have cars from China, Japan. We have cars, I mean, we have phones from China. And sometimes it can't be in our, not sometimes, in fact, they're not in our local languages. If these gadgets were produced in Malawi, they will obviously have our local language, which is Chichewa. So language will always play a role, or sometimes play a role in digital divide. So the manual for the car comes in Chinese language. Obviously, it becomes now an issue. A phone, for example, is in English, while in Malawi, we usually use Chichewa. We're also English people because our educational system is only in English. So maybe we can have that advantage, but we have other areas where English is a very big issue, and even the other languages. So people will be unable to use these gadgets just because of language, hence having this gap. So they can have the capacity to have, to access the gadget, but now the skills to use it now it becomes an issue. So yes, I agree with you to say language is one of the issues that bring about digital divide. Any further questions?
Any question on asking again, Joe? Yeah, thank you for answering. Before I will statement for our participant, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, ready for 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Finally, we come to the end visiting lecture today. We would like to thank you for Mr. Justin for the wonderful information and sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for our participants. At least we hope to have collaboration in the future with them as students at the Baptist University Malawi. The visiting lecture for today and here. We'll see you soon. Thank you and have a nice day.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity.